Welcome everyone to part 2 of this Canon EOS M3 review. Now the reason why I'm doing part 2 is because part 1 was more of a what I like about the camera. Part 2 is going to be more of what I don't like, which I hope changes for the next round. And I kind of forgot to mention this in the first one. You ever forget? I forget a lot. Anyways, let's get to the actual review of some stuff that could be better with this camera, which I hope they do address for the M4. And if Canon, if you are doing an M4 soon coming out, I would love to test it out. You know how to contact me. All information is down below. I would love to test out a new M series camera. Back to review. A couple of things that Canon could do a little better with the M series is better lens selections. Now, like I said, there's about 3 or so lenses made for the M series alone, and one of them is a fast lens. One of them, it's a prime. It's a 20 or 22. I think it's 22 millimeter f2, which is great. Now, if they made another prime, maybe a 50 or a 70 f2 or f1.8, that would just be even better. I would love to have a 70 millimeter f2 lens for this camera. Now, I do know that Canon does make a converter for the M series that can fit all the EF type lenses on there, which is kind of cool, but I don't want to have an extra thing with this camera. I just want to have it the camera and the lens went all in self-contained unit. So adding a converter doesn't really help with this. It just adds an extra thing to this camera, which it can do without. It needs to be small and compact. That's why they should just, if they want to spend more research with the M series, is to research more into the lens, making better lenses for this camera and not making a converter for it, because it adds more to this camera that it doesn't need. It needs to be small and lightweight. Now I'm going to go off topic a little from the M series to the microphone setting. Now, a lot of people have been contacting me saying this is how I set up so I can still view my viewfinder, which is great. What works for you is what works for you. What works for me is this extender, because I don't want to have an extra thing to this camera that I don't need. The reason why I have the extender on it, so it's all in self-contained. I don't have to take it off. It stays on the camera. That's where it lives. Unless I'm traveling, then I'll take it off. But more or less, it is always on this camera, which is another reason why I got the Video Go, the Rode microphone Video Go, because it doesn't require a battery. There's multiple times where I had microphones that had battery power that I would either A, forget to put the battery in, or B, leave the battery on and this battery would drain, or C, even leave the battery in, turn it off, and the battery still drains. With this microphone, it's all contained. It's using the power off the camera to charge it, which is perfect for me. It's something I don't have to think about. I just turn on my camera, hit record, and go. Now back to the actual camera review. Another thing that might turn some people off to this camera is it doesn't shoot 1080 at 60 frames a second. Now it does 1080 at 24, 25, and 30 frames a second, which is perfectly fine for me. But if you're looking for an action-paced camera, just upgrade to something that can do the 60 frames a second at 1080. But like I said in my previous video, to me it looks weird when it's a stationary camera and you're not doing fast motions to shoot it at 50 frames a second. If you're doing a daily vlog, for some reason it just looks really weird to shoot a video like that at 60 frames a second. In my honest opinion, it throws it off. So with this camera, shooting at 24 frames a second with 1080p is good for me. Another thing that kind of bugs me a little bit is it doesn't have a built-in intervalometer. And honestly, there's no really way to connect the intervalometer to this camera unless you're doing it wirelessly and connecting a dongle to it. There's ways to do it. It just makes it more complicated and makes it more stuff to carry around, which you don't need. Now, I did a video on how you can do this just out of the camera, a time-lapse shot. One problem was it only can go up to 30 minutes because that's how long the video takes, which explains why I have a bunch of SD cards, a couple labeled T for time-lapse. So in the M4 or the next series of this camera, I would love to see an intervalometer. It would be so good to actually set this camera up and shoot a long time-lapse. As long as it can go with the battery, it would be amazing, and I would love to do that. I love taking time-lapses. It's one of my favorite things to do, and not being able to do it with this camera kind of hurts a little bit. Now, one of the big things with this camera that is kind of a turn down to most people is the autofocus speed. Now, the autofocus speed with this camera is slow. Now, it's not super slow like most cameras. Some cameras were, like the X100, but it is slow. It's about a second to 2 seconds to autofocus on something. So it's, for me, it's not a big deal since I'm not doing fast motion or any of that stuff. But if you're doing fast motion, I would definitely upgrade to a DSLR or maybe a G7. Just kind of give you an idea how slow the autofocus is. We're going to do this little test here. I'm going to wait for the camera to focus on me. There we go. I'm going to go back here. And now it's autofocusing. So that's how slow it is. So that's kind of a turn down for some people, but again, I'm not doing much motion to trigger the autofocus to go completely haywire. And if it does, I can easily cut it out and I can stop talking since I'm not doing a long sequence of shots. And if I do a long sequence of shots, I'll put in a time lapse anyways, and I'll speed it up so you won't see it. So that is some of the problems I do have with this camera. So if you are looking at to get a camera and you're not sure which one to get, if you're thinking about getting this camera, I say watch both videos because it'll help you decide if camera is what you need. Now, for me, this camera is perfectly adequate for what I need for this, from what I'm doing. Like I said, would I upgrade to a different camera? I don't know. The big selling point for me with this camera was it was interchangeable lenses, shot 1080p at 0.4 frames a second, and the big thing was it had an external audio out jack, which allows me to connect my Rode microphone, and it has a hot shoe on it, so that allows me to connect the microphone to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like and share buttons down below. Also, please hit the red subscribe button down below to stay updated and get notifications when new videos of mine come out. Thank you all so much for subscribing. You guys have made my year, basically, seeing how far this channel can grow in under a year. February will be 1 year, so I'll do something special for that. Also, follow me on my Twitter and Instagram page. I post all the links down below so you can stay updated more with what I'm doing with this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it has been educational into buying a camera if you're thinking about getting the Canon M3. So please watch both videos. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.